Insurance companies advertise themselves as a safe haven. They want you to feel comfortable. They want you to, this illusion of you going to sleep at night, thinking that everything's gonna be fine and you're insured, you're under the best hands, that God forbid anything happened to your property, they're there for you. Well, unfortunately, in my experience in all these years of dealing with insurance companies and property owners and policies and property insurance claims, they're in it to make money. That is very quick to cashing your check and having a very hard time writing a check when you really do need it.
You are listening to the Insurance Corner podcast. This podcast is presented by Florida Public Adjusting. Tune in to get tips, information, and valuable pieces of advice on how to best handle common problems homeowners face with insurance providers.
In today's episode, I'm going to give you tips on how to handle your insurance company when you have property damage. So on your insurance policy, if you have a residential policy, and we'll just talk right now about residential policies, you have different coverages going from A to D. Coverage A is your dwelling. Coverage B is other structures that are not attached to your dwelling. Coverage C is your contents. And coverage D is your loss of use. So if you have a structure that is not attached to your dwelling, such as a storage unit or a shed, or even if you have, a fence that is not attached to your house, all of those items, all of those areas would be covered under other structures. And other structures is typically calculated as 10% of what you're insured for. So if you're insured for $250,000 on coverage A, that means coverage B would typically be $25,000. Now, you are able to increase coverage in case you have a structure that is worth more than the $25,000, but that you would also have to discuss with your agent to see how you would be able to increase that coverage. A lot of homeowners suffered damages to their other structures, and some had zero coverage, which is also a possibility, and some were just underinsured on that specific coverage, and they had to come out of pocket to fix some of those areas. So it's very important not to look at your insurance policy only after you have a catastrophic event, or you have any type of loss, whether catastrophic or what we call, what is typically called a daily claim, whether it's water damage or fire, smoke damage or hail damage. But understand and take a look at your policy before these things happen so that you could be prepared for when it happens. Insurance policies are for worst case scenarios or sudden and accidental areas. Nobody ever wants to go through an insurance claim. Nobody would, it's only when you have to. So it's very important that before you have to, make sure you're covered. You want to make sure that you have the right coverages in place to make sure that you get fully indemnified. Lacking in insurance policies, people want to save money, so they take off contents. That's an issue. If you have something that happened that damaged your contents, you're not going to be covered for it. Let me define contents, because I get this question a lot. Contents is anything that is able to be removed from your house, which is something that you purchased. Like a picture frame, you'd have that would have fallen under contents. Couches, bedding, towels, nightstands, appliances, like your KitchenAid would be under contents as well. Anything that you could remove from your home that you place into the home that's not attached to the structure. Window treatments are part of dwelling, blinds and stuff like that. Anything that's attached to the actual structure would be under your coverage A, which is your dwelling. And anything that's anything that you could just pick up and move would be covered, considered contents. Also, another thing to note, that when you are going through, say, a storm claim, and contents were damaged, insurance carriers like to use the argument that contents are only covered if there's also a storm-created opening which allowed the water to get into your property and damage your contents. Interestingly enough, they'll pay for the dwelling side because that's the same rule applies to there, but then they like to fight on the contents. And it's a big problem because you don't look at it now, but if there was a fire, God forbid, to your property and you lost all your contents and you had $100,000 in contents, and now you're out of pocket, not only going through this mess of trying to put your things back together, but now you're out of pocket $100,000 because you can't afford to get new contents. That's something that people, might opt out of because they'll save $200 a year. My mom always said, penny wise, pound foolish. If it costs a penny now, just take care of it, because you don't want it to be costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars when you actually need it. When you file an insurance claim, you'll have 48 hours that the insurance company needs to contact you to schedule an inspection. And they have 14 days to have the inspection from when the claim is filed. If you file an insurance claim, you need to make sure that you have representation. The insurance company is going to send out an adjuster to your home to inspect the damages, and you need to have a public adjuster to accompany that inspection and make sure that everything is going the way it's supposed to and not the way the insurance company is hoping for it to go. An insurance company would have typically 90 days from when you have filed the claim to make a claim determination whether they're going to pay the claim or deny it. That is the statute. Not always do they keep by the statute, and so it could be longer than the 90 days or 3 months. The documentation process is super beneficial for if it goes outside of your hands, and say you need to hire an attorney because they don't have any dispute resolution provisions in your policy. So having that documentation is what makes your claim strong. You'd get that phone call where okay, now we looked at it, we're only going to give you $2,000. Let's be real. There's $150,000 worth of damage to my property. And so having a good public adjuster to do that and to make sure that you are in compliance with the policy and all your post-loss obligations is very important. You want to make sure that you have a bulletproof case. Some of the most common questions are, what is covered and what is not covered? Are there areas in my house that wouldn't be covered? Or are there things that I could add on to my insurance policy to make sure they are covered? So a good example of something, because it's more common right now, after Hurricane Ian hit, there were a lot of screen enclosures that got blown off and ripped off. Screen enclosures for swimming pools, they got ripped off from the hurricane. And that's, the most identifiable when you're, going through a storm. It's just mangled metal that comes, after a storm hits it, it just becomes mangled metal and screen, and your pool's damaged and it gets ripped off from your house. So insurance carriers, after I think it was Wilma or maybe even Katrina, they caught on to this, that this was a very common area in the home that gets damaged, or a common part of the property that gets damaged. And so they started excluding it. Most policies, if you have a homeowner's policy and you have a screen enclosure over your swimming pool, most policies, I'm not saying all policies, but most policies would exclude it. However, you are able to, if you speak to your agent, get an endorsement that would give you a limited amount of insurance coverage for that specific item. And that would go to as well with any area of the home that wouldn't necessarily be under an insurance policy. There are endorsements that you could opt into paying for when you are purchasing your insurance policy, which I think it's very important to take a note of, because if you do have some things that might not necessarily be covered, making sure that your agent is aware of what you are insuring, and then providing the right and correct insurance for that will make all the difference when you are experiencing an insurance claim or you experienced a loss and now you have to go through the insurance claim process. You don't want to find out afterwards that, hey, you know what, for $100 a year, you could have had $20,000 in coverage on your pool enclosure, and now you're out of pocket because that option wasn't relayed over to you. So when you are shopping for insurance, make sure that you are the one explaining what you have in your home or what you have in your property. Relay that over to your agent and then let them give you the options on how you could get those covered. When you file an insurance claim, the representative that answers the phone will ask for, there's a few details that they'll ask for. What was the cause of loss? What was the date of loss? And a brief description of what happened to the property. If you are the person that is filing the insurance claim, just make sure that, the facts are correct and that you take the information down of who the adjuster will be and who the examiner will be. Typically, they'll give it to you on the spot. If not, take a day or two for them to assign it to somebody. And that information is key in going forward to scheduling appointments, inspections, and then who the person behind the desk is that you would be speaking to. Now, that's if you are going through the process by yourself. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend it, just given my experience and how insurance companies deal with property losses in the state of Florida. It's encouraged to hire a public adjuster to facilitate and to make sure that your claim is properly handled from the beginning to the end so that you could get back to your regular day-to-day. If it was my house or my property, I would call a public adjuster immediately, let them deal with it from the beginning to the end. They're the experts in the field. They're the ones that are trained in this area of insurance. The best results come from a good public adjuster. When a homeowner goes through an insurance claim, it's a very emotional state because it's their home, it's their property, and it's the roof over their head. When you're dealing with an insurance company, they have millions of files. But when a public adjuster gets involved, it's more of a business-to-business transaction. The end goal is to get it settled for you. And we will work together with the insurance company to get the claim settled very quickly, or as quickly as possible, as opposed to, you as an insured or a property owner or policyholder, going through your day-to-day life and having work and your family and your kids and your pets and all that stuff, and then trying to get receipts and trying to do this and, getting contractors in place. It just delays it. We have our structure, we have our process. When we call the insurance company, they recognize who we are. And the end goal is to try and get it resolved and work amicably with the insurance company. We don't, confrontation is not something that, anybody prefers in any industry. Most adjusters and examiners that we meet today, I've known and I've met with and I've spoken to and I've dealt with and settled claims with for the last 12 years. Insurance companies will send insurance adjusters to your property. From there, the insurance adjuster will photograph, or what they're supposed to do is photograph, walk through the property, document, create an estimate, and then send it over to an examiner. The examiner will then look at the estimate and then determine if there's coverage or not. It was not always like that. It used to be that the adjuster that we meet would have more authority, and they're actually able to discuss the claim and, work on a scope with you and work on, in some cases that still, it still happens today, but most cases, the adjusters that they send out are more just glorified photographers and sketch artists that know how to put together a sketch on a pad or on an Xactimate iPad and then send it over to somebody that's never been at your house before or never been at the property before. And then those people are trusted with making a determination on whether you're going to be indemnified or not. So it's changed a lot. Unfortunately, having an insurance adjuster from the insurance company only just means that they're taking pictures, taking a sketch, and then sending it out to somebody that's never seen your property before and has to go and now rely on photographs and a brief description of what the insurance adjuster that came to your house saw. So having a public adjuster, we work on the claim from the beginning to the end. We don't hand it off to anybody. We are the ones that saw your property. We are the ones that negotiate the settlements. We are the ones that take the photos, document it, come up with a scope that is necessary to bring your home or property back to pre-loss condition, and we get it done. When you experience any kind of loss, it is highly recommended to contact and file the claim immediately. Do not hesitate, don't wait. They'll use it against you. Insurance carriers, even though you have 14 days to stop whatever's causing the damage to your house, and then you have 18 months maybe, I think is after the new legislation passed, to file a claim. Even though you have that time frame, they will still use it against you. They will fight you tooth and nail. So if you do have a loss and you've experienced something that should be covered, or even if you're not sure, you call us right away. Claim needs to get in as soon as possible. File the claim immediately, don't hesitate. People are like, oh, well, I didn't want to bother my insurance company. No, they'll use that against you. So if you have a loss, contact us right away. We'll get the claim filed immediately. If you want to call your insurance company right away, call your insurance company right away, file the claim, call us, we'll come out there, we'll meet with the insurance adjuster, we'll go over the scope, we'll make sure that it's documented the way it's supposed to be documented, and then we will make sure that you get the full recovery that you are entitled to. If your claim is denied, there are still options. If you call the insurance company denied your claim, we could still come to your property. We could evaluate the loss, listen to how everything went down, and then, obviously if it's something that should be covered, we would definitely represent you and make sure that if it should be covered, then it will get covered. We have a very good track record on dealing with claims that were denied and that our clients received benefits after the fact. And not just, a nuisance settlement or, here's some money to go away, but, proper funds that were necessary to fix their properties. Insurance wrongfully denied claims. It's just a matter of fact, only just based on my experience. But at the same time, there are claims that shouldn't have been filed. So those denials, are warranted and, there's no coverage. And if that is one of those cases, we will make sure that we'll come to your house anyway. We'll take a look at it and we'll advise you. But at least that you were not taken advantage of because you had an expert take a look at it other than the insurance company who made the determination. Even if it's something that we can't do, we will still come to your house and sit down with you, and it doesn't cost you anything. There's no out-of-pocket costs. I understand when you're going through something like that, just having that support there is money can't buy. So we'll come out to your house, we'll take a look at the claim, we'll go into detail with your policy, and if it's something that should have been denied and was denied because it wasn't a covered loss, we'll let you know. But if it's something that was denied, and it is something that we could help you with, we will make sure you get fully indemnified for. So calling a public adjuster is a no-brainer. If there is a claim that is denied, and we strongly believe that you have a covered cause of loss, you have a covered claim, the last resort is hiring counsel, finding an attorney to move forward, to file a complaint against the insurance company, to help facilitate any kind of settlement. Now, why do I say it's a last resort? Nobody wants to enter into a legal battle with anybody, but at times that it's necessary, there are options to get that taken care of. At that point, it's very important to have a bulletproof case so that the worst case scenario, you have a strong case against the insurance company, which we built so that it could be fought properly in the court system if necessary.
Have you encountered such cases? Yeah?
This is like 50% of our claims are in litigation. Yeah.
Wow.
It got worse. In this storm, they're paying $2,000 for houses that are like $180,000 to $200,000 worth of damage. We file a letter. It goes from $2,000 to $95,000.
Wow.
It's not, the numbers don't make sense. If I tell you we had one claim under deductible, we just settled for $350,000. You can say that number on a camera, but it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's stupid, right? It's like 300,000 times what the insurance company offered. It's how do you put that in an advertisement? It's the numbers don't make sense. Sometimes it's very rare that a client will be like, well, Josh, at the end of the day, what did you do for us? Well, I'm like, look, I built your entire claim file, all the work product that is going to be used in your court case or in the litigation or to come to some sort of a resolution and a settlement with the insurance company is based on my work product, which is going to be used for that. I'm also involved when we get subpoenaed and I have to go sit down for depositions, or I have to go if I get called to a hearing for whatever reason, or an expert witness. Those are some things that we have to deal with after the fact. A lawyer is not an adjuster. They're not claim experts. They're not. They've rarely even seen the properties. A lawyer is there to fight a case, right? In any court case, doesn't matter if it's insurance related or not. You take the case to the attorney's going to determine if they feel like it's a case that they want to go with, and then they'll file suit. Over here, we are building the case for you, for your claim. We are the ones that put together the entire package from A to Z that gives them the ammunition to go fight it. So you need a public adjuster to, number one, create that entire case and document it, photograph it, have all that is necessary to include into your insurance claim, so that if it does end up in the worst case scenario, that the attorney that will be handling your file has what it takes to get it done. We facilitate the entire case for you. We are the ones that met with the insurance companies. We are the ones that document it, photograph it. We are the ones that identify what the damages is, and what the scope of loss should be. We are the ones that are on the forefront of your insurance claim from the beginning. It is super important to understand that documentation, meeting with the insurance company, all the evidence from that process to the end is what makes your claim great. If you have a leak under your kitchen sink, noticed it, fixed it, called the insurance company, insurance adjuster now comes to your house. Insurance company comes to your house, inspects the kitchen, but now you're like, hey, you know what? Now that you're here, Mr. Insurance Man, let me show you the rest of my house. And then you start taking him to areas of the home that is not related to your kitchen loss. That's an issue, because all he's there is to inspect the kitchen. If he starts looking at other areas of the house, something that may have actually been covered would now pose a problem, because you didn't file an insurance claim for those specific areas. So if you do file an insurance claim on your own, make sure that you stick to the facts of what you filed the claim for. So today it used to be I would say, hey, this insurance company is better than the next. But today I think it's pretty equal playing field for all insurance companies. And a lot of them have adopted to the same way as a universal way on how they handle claims. I'm not saying that for 100% of insurance companies, but most that are insuring in South Florida or the entire state of Florida, they've adopted this way of how they handle claims, and it doesn't really differentiate one company from the next. And even coverages, one would have coverages that the other might not, so that comes down to you also just as the consumer finding the right policy that fits you. Yeah, I would like to say that some insurance companies are better than the next. At the end of the day, insurance companies are for-profit companies. They're in it to make money, and at the end, you have to protect yourself. So when you have to go through an insurance claim, having representation is super important, because nobody's going to protect your interests as much as yourself and the person that you hire to do that for you. Insurance companies used to be or the way they advertise it would be making you feel safe, making you feel comfortable and confident and able to sleep at night, knowing that if God forbid something happens to your property, or that you would be taken care of because you pay them and you trust them to do that. It's unfortunately not the case. And we deal with people that go through stressful, life-changing experiences, whether it's from a storm or a fire or water damage, that they woke up and there's inches of water flooding out throughout their house from a broken pipe. And insurance companies coming out there, and it's the same story over and over again. And if we didn't get involved, then they wouldn't have gotten the recovery that we were able to secure for them. So it's very important to look, one, to make sure that prior to having something happen, hopefully nothing does happen, but in the event that something does, you want to make sure that you are covered or you have a correct policy. But at the same time, after that, you want to also make sure you're covered by hiring a public adjuster. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Insurance Corner. We hope that these tips help you in the future. And as always, Florida Public Adjusting is here for you, and we will see you on the next one.